Even when the ending of an episode in Shogun isn't an all-out bloodbath and maybe just a blood bucket, it still manages to send shivers down my spine and leave me in shock as the credits start rolling. Crimson Sky it's gonna be, and my god, I can't wait to see it. I wouldn't even call this show a slow burn because every episode has been incredible, but the consistent pacing, quality and establishing of the characters and world has now led us to a point where I think the final 3 episodes are going to be the best that we're going to see. With the Council of Regents clearly looking like puppets at this point, Lady Ochiba being the puppet master and Toranaga facing no more options if he wants to survive, along with also seeing Mariko's past and her deep-rooted connection to Lady Ochiba. Let's jump into this video and break down all that there was to take away from the episode. Here is Shogun Episode 6 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Mariko's past. Now this episode opened up with Mariko's past and wow, what an opening section it was. What the purpose of this 5-minute section was to show us exactly what Toda Buntaro forced Mariko to talk about in the previous episode, and the reason why Mariko has an 8-fold fence built up inside of her. And this was because of her father and the acts that he committed at the time, which in turn led to her whole family being killed and him needing to commit seppuku. What was especially interesting about this scene as well was the fact that we saw just how close Mariko and Lady Ochiba were prior to Mariko's father killing Ochiba's father. They spent what looked like most of their childhood together and grew up as close friends. However, it was after what happened with her father where they obviously drifted apart. This scene also provided clarity over why it was that Mariko never seemed to be happy with Toda Buntaro, because deep down she never actually wanted to marry him. It was a marriage that she was forced into by her father, and despite the fact that Toda Buntaro was a formidable warrior, his name was one which was essentially worthless and offered nothing for her to gain. So it now does make sense as to why there's so much resentment between both Mariko and Buntaro. However, something sad that we came to realize in this episode was that Toda does actually care for Mariko, and I think he always has. The look that he gave her when he was watching her several years ago was the start of that spark for him, and seeing him speaking with Toranaga and saying how he thought that he was doing a good thing and preventing her from dying when she wanted to, but knowing that he couldn't make her happy but John could, made me realize that he did actually care for her in some capacity, and it wasn't something that was just arranged for him. Granted, he treats her awfully and shouldn't do that in the slightest, but it was interesting actually getting a look inside of Toda Buntaro's mind amongst all of that. When it came to the Willow world, Mariko's past is the pain that she's holding on to, and that's why we saw it coming to the forefront when she was sitting alongside John and Lady Kiku. Kiku mentioned how the people that are there go there because they want to escape pain or loneliness, and I think Mariko's life has consisted of both of those things ever since her father's betrayal. Hence why we saw the flashbacks occurring when she was speaking Kiku's words, because she was vocalizing the words that I feel she wanted to say to John, and in that moment it was offering her the escape from the pain that her life that she was living was bringing her on a day-to-day basis. Towards the end of the episode, we saw that Mariko was asked by Toranaga what was going on between her and the Anjin, to which she said nothing. She eventually went on to compare the battle that men face and the battle that women face when it comes to the wars that they fight. She said how men fight for conquest, power, and strength, whereas women are just constantly at war with life, fighting to survive. And I think that's how Mariko feels about her own life and the struggles that she has to go through. For example, she said how she wished that her father had married her off to Toda Buntaro, but Toranaga revealed to her that her father only married her to Toda Buntaro so that he could ensure her survival following what he did. He knew that she was a formidable person, as was shown to us in the flashback parts of the episode, and by being married off to Toda, that removed the association with her father and the reason for her to be killed as punishment. As like what was said in the previous episode, which was reflective of the time, a man's wife is their own property, so it meant that she couldn't be killed as a repercussion. Within reality, Hosokawa Tadayoki, the historical figure that Toda Buntaro is based on, actually sent Tamako, the historical figure that Mariko was based on, into exile, and he kept her hidden so that she wouldn't face any threats. However, once the Taiko of the time found out that she was still alive, he was ordered to bring her to Osaka in the Hosokawa mansion where she was kept in confinement. So it does differ from the real event slightly, but in the context of the show it still works. With Mariko now realizing what her father did and the reason that he married her off to Toda Buntaro being for completely different reasons, she felt as though she'd let her father down. However, it very much feels like Toranaga is going to point her in the right direction to be able to complete the war that her father declared several years ago. Her father was all about being loyal to the realm, and in this instance, after several years of peace that the Taiko managed to secure throughout Japan, with him now being dead and Ochiba controlling the council and declaring war on Toranaga, that loyalty to the true realm is required again, so she'll most likely be following in her father's footsteps. Yabushigi's conflict. Now this guy, I swear, he changes his mind so much it's actually comical. The tides turn slightly and he's drawing up new wills and thinking of ways he can change sides. If I were Toranaga, I'd just be done with him. He seems too much of a risk. However, it definitely feels like Toranaga knows what he's doing, so I'm trusting Toranaga on this one. During the start of the episode, we saw the repercussions of the earthquake and landslide that happened at the end of the previous episode, and it seemed like Toranaga's army was decimated to the point where it was a fraction of the strength that it was. This was something which Yabushigi was concerned about, as he didn't feel like they could take Osaka or Ishido and the loyalties that he had which made up the Western army when compared to what Toranaga had with the East. This also paired with him, Omi and Nagakado being concerned over the showering of gifts that John Blackthorne was being given was making him question Toranaga and if he should stand by him. Yabushigi no longer held the army under his command. John Blackthorne was made chief admiral and was made a general of the cannon regiment and was also given a fief near Kanagawa worth 600 koku. So seeing John being praised higher and higher and Toranaga's army getting weaker and weaker, it was something which was making Yabushigi question what he was doing and if he was on the right side. Whilst on the topic of picking sides, we saw that just outside of Osaka, Father Martin Alvito was questioning if they should have sided with Toranaga and started to see him as an ally. This was due to the gates of Osaka Castle being shut and all of the family members of the regions being held hostage. This is something which did actually happen in reality, but I'll get to that in the next section. Whilst John Blackthorne is against the Portuguese and the Catholics, Toranaga has bigger fish to fry with the threat of Ishido and Lady Ochiba no Kata. So with Toranaga looking for allies around Osaka, I imagine maybe Father Martin Alvito may choose to side with him, which would make things very interesting for John Blackthorne, so I'll be intrigued to see what's going to happen there. The hostages of Osaka. Now this was a scene. The brutality of it. The bird being on fire, an animal which is said to represent freedom dying on the ground, was something which really captured the state of Osaka and the disarray that the council were in. We saw that Ishido took the regents and their family members hostage inside of Osaka and he prevented them from leaving. This was so that he could confirm the fact that they were allied to him. With there being a bit of disagreement on who to get in as the 5th regent in the previous episode, it was probably something that was in his mind. And with Ochiba saying that the time for politics was over, that meant that diplomatic reasoning was done. This was something that actually happened in real life. However, there were slightly different outcomes. Ishida Mutsunari, the historical figure that Ishido is based on, took over Osaka Castle, which is where the family members of the former Taiko's generals lived, and he did it with the intention of forcing the generals to ally with him, or to at least not attack him. Otherwise, there would be harm brought upon their family members. Within the real events, Tamako, the real person that Mariko was based on, was actually killed at this moment. She was killed by the family retainer because it was said that if any threat were to come to her life, then she should be killed. She would have committed seppuku, but because she was a Catholic, it was considered a sin. However, within the show, Mariko obviously wasn't there. She was in the east with Toranaga. This scene very much felt like it was about showing us that Lady Ochiba was in full control, and Ishido, despite being a loyal servant to the Taiko, one of the most loyal when he was alive, was now being manipulated by her into doing what she said. There's something about Ishido's smile. It really gives me a haunting feeling. He doesn't personify evil, but that smile really is villainous, and he gave it to Sugiuama when he stopped him in the woods and slaughtered him and his family. It showed no remorse. This is a regent that he'd served alongside and was once so close with, and he so easily just butchered him. Lies are present amongst the council now. Sugiuama's death was lied about, the threat to the heir is being lied about, and the fragility of the council has reached its breaking point. Lady Ochiba is in charge, and Ishido is the commander of the army and the forceful hand that she inflicts onto others. Gah, this is getting good. The Crimson Sky. This plan was something which it always felt like was on the back burner and was a last resort that was there for Toranaga and his most trusted men. The fact that Yabushigi didn't know about it was telling of the fact that Toranaga just didn't trust him. The Crimson Sky is a plan that's essentially a last-ditch attempt where the men that are fighting under Toranaga plan on storming Osaka Castle in a surprise attack. And if need be, they'll go down with honor and die in the most honorable of ways. Toranaga can see the lies that are present amongst the council and the death sentence that he faces, and the only alternative option that he now has in order to try and stay alive is to actually go to war with Ishido and the West. He said how he didn't want any titles or anything like that, something which wasn't part of the Crimson Sky plan, as it was originally intended for him to take the castle, establish a new government and become the Shogun, so I do wonder if that will change when he and his army reach Osaka. I honestly can't wait to see this being depicted on screen, and I hope that the Battle of Sekigahara gets a main focus. I'm feeling a massive episode 9, I don't know why. All good shows give us a phenomenal penultimate episode, and I feel it could be that. My review of the episode. I thought this episode was a really good one. This was one which was very much focused on politics, external politics and internal politics. Whether that be Toranaga getting members of his clan in order, or whether it be Lady Ochiba playing Ishido and getting him to turn on the people that he was once on the same side as. It made for a different feel, but it was one where it was all about building tension and seeing exactly why there was a threat and the justification for the battles that we're going to be seeing commence in the final few episodes of the show. Seeing the way that Toranaga treats John, knowing full well that it's going to impact Nagakado, Omi, and Yabushiki, and seeing the way that he made Mariko go to the courtesan with John, and also the way that he spoke to Tora Buntaro and told him to take 7 days isolation away from her. It shows that he's fully in control and he knows what it is that he's doing. He knows the people that are closest to him and he plays with their minds in order to keep them in line to the way that he wants them to act. I also loved the scene at the beginning with him in front of everybody, and also at the end as well. He can command the people in front of him and every word leaves you hanging on a breath. There's passion, power, strength and wisdom in his words, and it carries across the screen so well. All I'm going to say is respect to Sugiuama. He stood up for what he believed in and died by the sword because of it. He saw that the council was obsolete and was just a front for Lady Ochiba to command Ishido, and he didn't buy into the lies that were present there. But sadly, as history often shows, those people do end up facing the wrath of the evil that lies in front of them. I thought one of the best scenes in the episode was when Mariko, John Blackthorne and Lady Kiku were discussing the meaning of the Willow World and how people go there with the intention of escaping the pain of life that they're living, and how Lady Kiku intended on offering one perfect moment to escape that reality. Here we saw Mariko showing that she cared deeply for John. She mistranslated him and didn't offer up a compliment when he said one to Lady Kiku. And when she was translating her, when she was describing the Willow World, she was entering into the escape of the pain that was her former life. The trauma that she endured as a child due to her father's actions, and it was almost as if she wanted to be with John in that moment to escape the pain. I thought the opening section where we witnessed Mariko's past from 22 years ago was an incredible way to start the episode. We saw the frustration that her father consistently had and the fact that he wanted change, the very thing that drove him to take matters into his own hands. The transition between time periods all throughout the episode was seamless, and rather than taking you out of the world, it genuinely made you feel a part of it even more. This show hasn't dropped a dud episode, and I don't think it will. It hasn't failed to deliver in any way of the kind, and the 6 episodes that we've had up until this point are just pure quality. Like I said at the start of the video, I believe these 6 episodes have been a slow build up until the main event, so I'm going to try my best to savor those episodes. So, there you have it, Shogun Episode 6, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on Shogun, then click on the card in the top corner. I've been covering every episode from the show, so if you want to see them broken down, then head over to the channel. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.